2 weeks ago, this channel was the first to report that there was a deadline looming of October 1st for the airlines, and that the airlines were going to jump into your stimulus package to get you to the finish line. This morning, that exact question was asked of Steve Mnuchin. He was asked whether there would be a standalone bill for the airlines. He was asked what would happen to the airlines if there's no stimulus package done by legislative action by the end of today. He was asked whether he's been speaking to the airlines. And now we have the answers. And ironically, everything that we had said on this channel is coming to fruition. This is LALATE Afternoons. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is LALATE. I hope you're good and safe. This is really a continuation of the video before this, which is about the check. And while this is also about hazard pay, I have a lot of major developments about one of the major frontline workers in the country, airlines, and why that deadline of October 1st is sort of changing by the hour just today, 24 hours before October 1st. Big, shocking developments that impact your check, impact FPUC, impact rent, impact everything that you've been waiting for. And I'm going over them with incredible detail. So go to the Finish channel, subscribe, because in the last 24 hours, you've seen the success of the Purple Power. You've seen it. The White House has now said that they will endorse the Problem Solvers bipartisan bill, which is what we had urged the White House to do. We had urged the White House to reject Nancy Pelosi's inflated and bloated imploded. It's like two words put together. $2.2 trillion bill. And that's exactly what Steve Mnuchin said to start the day. But he also said something about airlines. Coming up is that detail as well. Also like this video, because no one is going tooth and nail, heart and soul for you, like me, to get you to the finish line. All right, let me get to the incredible breaking news minutes ago. The incredible breaking news that I'm going to cover in this video, which is sort of a continuation of the video from before, is what's going on with that October 1st deadline of the airlines. Airlines are going to lay off 35,000 employees tomorrow. Just the airlines. And there's hundreds of thousands of other people that'll be laid off as a result of problems with the airlines. Now, you may not work with the airlines or work at the airlines or have a job at the airlines, but ultimately your stimulus check is impacted by the airlines. How? Let me explain to you. Your stimulus check has been owed to you for months, actually multiple stimulus checks. You've been waiting for your stimulus check since March. Didn't get one in June, you were owed one. Didn't get one in May, you were owed one. Didn't get one in July, was owed one. You've been waiting, haven't gotten a damn penny from these people. And your check is in a stimulus package. Well, out of nowhere came a bunch of very, very large corporations for the airlines that said, wait a second, we have a problem. Our problem's October 1st. We have to make a decision under federal law to either hire or fire people we are furloughed. A furloughed employee by federal law has to have a determination whether they're fired or hired by a specific number of days after you furlough them. That date, that deadline, comes up tomorrow, October 1st. I reported this 2 weeks ago, that the airlines would suddenly jump into your stimulus package and push your stimulus package to a deadline and get it potentially approved by October 1st if everyone recognized that as a deadline. And that they would have to be voted by the House on the 29th, the Senate on the 30th, and ratified by the President on October 1st. Well, clearly today is the 30th, so something's happened. And that's exactly what Becky Quick from CNBC asked Steve Mnuchin this morning. Ostensibly taking the exact language of this channel for 2 weeks, Becky Quick asked Steve Mnuchin, well, what's going on? I thought the airlines have an October 1st deadline. What are you doing with the stimulus package if the stimulus package now has a deadline of October 1st? First, she asked, will there be a standalone, single standalone bill for the airlines? Great question, Becky. The reason why is because that horrible bill from Wickers and Susan Collins that initially tried to give the airlines a standalone stimulus package, which was summarily rejected, is no longer a factor, so sort of wipe it out of your brain. Mnuchin responded, says there won't be a standalone bill for airlines. Okay, that's gone. First one done. How about tomorrow's deadline? He says, I hope by tomorrow we have an understanding on an overall package. Oh, very optimistic. But I'm hopeful we can get to an overall understanding, and hopefully the airlines will hold off. Now, what he's saying by overall understanding, he's saying, I hope I can get to an agreement with Nancy Pelosi, not a law, not a vote in the House, not a vote in the Senate. I can get an agreement, an overall agreement with Nancy Pelosi by tomorrow, and the airlines can hold off on firing the people tomorrow. I'm happy. And then he pauses and he changes subject. I'm happy Treasury has been working around the clock to close the airline loans, and there's a lot of support for that at the Treasury. That's something a little bit more complicated for me to even go over in this video, but he's basically saying we're giving them some money to make sure they're liquid. Becky Quick didn't leave this discussion unsettled, so she came back with another one jabbing. Have you asked the airlines to hold off on tomorrow because we have this deadline of tomorrow for their stimulus package? He responds, and for a man who's like this, the entire interview, literally no facial reaction. He smiled for the first time and says, I speak to the airlines on a regular basis. His smile, in my interpretation, sounded like they call me a lot. It's like, can you stop calling me? That was the look of his smile, but that's at least my interpretation. He says they've been doing a very good job, perhaps he's saying this sarcastically, of reaching out to this office, the White House, the Republicans and the Democrats on a regular basis. Smile. Is it a smirk that you're calling too much? That's sort of what I took it as. And I will be calling them after later today to give them an update. So isn't that nice? The airlines will have an update before we do on the stimulus package. If anyone works at the offices of the CEO of United, can you just call me and tell me what's going on? What's Steve say on the phone? Yeah, it's a little disconcerting that they know what's going on in the stimulus package before us. But why is this so bizarre? Well, there's a lot of things that is bizarre about that sentence, a series of sentences. First, in the context in which you hear that sentence, and if you hear nothing else from MNUCHIN in that interview, which you have, because you've listened to my morning's broadcast and the video before this, it sounds as though MNUCHIN says there's going to be a deal tomorrow. And he's just saying, hey, airlines, hold off. I'm going to have a deal tomorrow. Just hold off. Just, have a drink, go to the casino for the night. But then in the rest of the interview, he says quite the opposite. He doesn't think, he has never made a counteroffer to Pelosi, that she's a 2-2, a number that the president has rejected every single time since the history of mankind, that MNUCHIN's going to offer 1.5 or around 1.5. He's going to offer the problem solver bill. He's going to offer a nonpartisan amount, which CNBC actually says in their coverage of the MNUCHIN interview, an amount which Pelosi has rejected before is how they end the story. So you hear these remarks about the airlines and you think, well, what is going on? Well, what's going on is that MNUCHIN is sort of making things sound a little bit more optimistic than they really are. And MNUCHIN has done this before. I need to recap of every time that he has said something that's a little bit too hopeful. MNUCHIN has told us before, I think we'll have a deal by Friday. MNUCHIN on another week said, I think we'll have a deal by Friday. Another week, MNUCHIN says, I think we'll have a law by Friday. I mean, we've had these representations from MNUCHIN and Meadows about how everything is going to get done within 4 days. It never even gets close to being done. Ironically, what did Mitch McConnell say today? Well, Mitch McConnell was reached out to by Broadcast News asking, well, did you hear Mnuchin's remarks? Do you think the Senate's going to approve this whatever thing that might be possibly agreed upon? And McConnell says, I don't think so. They're very far apart. I mean, they're insanely crazy far apart. And ironically, there you go. As we turn to hazard pay, and we're talking about all the elements of hazard pay, there's this thing to understand first before I get to the details of hazard pay. One, what we're detailing in this video and the video before this is legislative action to get you stimulus, which ostensibly, unless some strange thing has happened, and it has happened before, the door for legislative stimulus relief will be closed by the end of today. Now, MNUCHIN suggests that maybe you can go on till tomorrow, and then maybe you can go on to the day after. I don't know what MNUCHIN's even talking about at this point, because it doesn't make sense. Even the interviewer was asking, it doesn't make sense what you're saying. But for executive order, it has nothing to do with a deadline of today. There is no deadline for executive order to get your stimulus checks, to get your hazard pay, to get your FPUC, to get any type of relief. The president could do it any day. At any time, the president can wake up and say, you know, I really butchered that debate last night. Let me send out some stimulus checks. Chris Christie, I don't like your prepping of me, so let's do some stimulus checks. Rudy, how much money we have sent out some FPUC? Rudy, let's do some FPUC because I looked a little angry last night. He can literally just wake up out of bed and just, he doesn't drink, Sometimes I wish he did. Have a 12 scoop of $12 ice cream and say, hey, let's do executive order. Literally that way. But let's turn to hazard pay. Hazard pay, for purposes of legislative path, will have about a 24-hour window, and then it'll be gone. And let me explain where hazard pay is as we await MNUCHIN's counteroffer, which may be debuted by the time of this recording. This recording is made at about 12:30 Pacific Standard Time for a 4 o'clock broadcast. The things you need to know are that Nancy Pelosi ripped hazard pay to pieces and threw it out in her latest revision so that she can give raises to all her friends in the government. Yeah. She's giving raises to all these big government and took out hazard pay. Isn't that such a nice thing to say? I mean, let's just make things very clear. The Department of Justice, Department of Copyrights, the national parks, they were closed during the pandemic. They're not frontline workers, Attorneys are not frontline workers. Hello. Bambi is not a frontline worker. She might think she is, but she's not. The frontline workers worked during the pandemic. Give them a darn hazard pay. What are you doing, Nancy? But she took it out. Isn't that so cute of her? Well, there are other provisions in Nancy's horrible bill that provides frontline workers money. It's not called hazard pay, but it's called grants. There is an essential workers provision in there that provides grants. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. It's not a small amount of money. The thing that I don't like about it is it's not as encompassing as the definition of essential workers under the prior version of the $10,000 per lump sum hazard pay provision that we're also excited to see. Additionally, there's the return of EIDL grant at a big price target. And that return of EIDL grant could pay people who worked as essential workers a lot of money, or at least a good amount of money. Again, it's not a well-written bill. It's just, you look at it, it's like, what are you saying? It is very badly phrased for all the reasons that we don't like things badly phrased. And is it a $10,000 EIDL grant? Is it a $1,000 per employee grant? Is it giving you the grant money that you're supposed to get but did not get? If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, under the EIDL program, individual solo practitioners, independent contractors, Uber and Lyft drivers, truckers, hairdressers that have a Schedule C, anyone that has a Schedule C, anyone that has a 1099 for their loan-out corporation, their LLC, anyone that does anything Schedule C could get an EIDL grant. And a lot of you applied for that EIDL grant back in June and July and never got it because the funds were gone. Well, this would give you the funds to get that grant. And it's the relief you certainly want. So as we sit here this afternoon, what's going to come up next? Well, I know it's a lot of twists and a lot of turns. And there's a reason why I'm not doing your comments on air today, because your comments were about basically where we were yesterday, and it would be a little confusing to talk about comments before MNUCHIN's reaction, which came this morning. Where we are today is that we have 3 pressure points, and we have 2 paths. One path that is not closing and one path that is closing. The path that is closing is legislative. MNUCHIN seems to suggest that the path for legislation could stay open after today. I don't see how that's the case. So I need to be very frank with you. The executive order path is not closing, and that's where we have a lot of pressure. So for the next 24 hours, we have the following pressure points, and then I'll tell you where we are after that. For 24 hours, we're pushing the Problem Solvers bill, pushing it for a vote, pushing the Blue Dogs, pushing the New Democrat Coalition, saying, hey, don't support Nancy Pelosi's horrible $2.2 trillion bill. You've been on Twitter, you've seen my images, you need to retweet that image, retweet and tag everyone, say, don't support Pelosi's $2.2 trillion, support the Problem Solvers, get it done. We also have seats for stimulus. We're going to make very clear to elected officials that are in the House and the Senate, Republican, Democrat, don't do this horrible Nancy Pelosi $2.2 trillion bill. If you vote for that and then just leave town, skip out of town, 2 days from now, might as well book a one-way flight, because we're not allowing you back into your office. We're kicking you out come November. And we'll make very clear to that promise. And finally, the third push for the next 24 hours is the president. Get the Problem Solvers bill passed, get the Problem Solvers bill passed, which is what we've been doing for a week, and that's why MNUCHIN has now adopted exactly what we've been pushing. Now, after 24 hours from now, when I believe the window will be closed legislatively, and I'll tell you if it happens at that point, then we focus on executive orders. And executive orders have no deadline. Executive orders have no deadline. Executive orders can give you stimulus checks, can give you FPUC, can give you hazard pay, can give you rent, can give you a lot of stuff. There's a lot of money sitting around that the president has the legal authority, has the inherent authority, and has the funding to give to you. And will he? Well, it depends on how you looked at that last night's debate. I saw your comments last night. I mean, Evening's LALATE debuted by the tail end of that debate, and the comments were, I gotta stop watching this debate. Oh my God, thank God you were brought. Thank God you had some videos for me, because I just couldn't watch this debate. My God. So I saw your comments. Needless to say, everyone has an opinion about these debates, and all those opinions impact the president's decision to give you something to win the election, especially if you think he's in trouble in winning the election based upon new twists and turns by the hour. So a lot of twists and turns. I'm here to help you. We're here to get together. We're here to push to the finish line. It's an incredible community of people that really, really do care about people. I've seen incredible comments by people in the last 24 hours. Let me respond to something personally. This channel does an enormous amount of traffic, almost 2 million views every 24 to 48 hours. Tens of thousands of tweets per day to and from this channel, and social media posts elsewhere. There's upwards of about 40,000 comments per day. So to the extent that I can see your comment and respond, I love it. To the extent I can't see the remainder of the 40,000 comments, I'm always saddened that I can't. So please always give me slack that this is one person. This is me. There's no social media team with 55 people pushing things for you. No human person can respond to 40,000 comments per day. So I try my best. And ultimately, I hope with that you understand that the spirit of the Purple Power is helping one another's. So there are people who jump into the comments and help and answer other people's questions when I can't. There's other people that are retweeting your tweets when I can't. And there's other people who are helping push the envelope with you when I may not see your tweet because there were so many tweets or so many comments at the same time. That is the spirit of the Purple Power, helping one another. So go to the Fun channel, subscribe to the best darn community out there. Everything happens for a purpose, and we found a purpose. So really become part of this community. Also like this video, because in days like this is where we become stronger. And you can't imagine how strong we've become and how organized and focused we have been in upwards of a week. Coming up next is FPUC, so stay tuned for that. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay with LA for more.